Hey, it's the Pictures listeners and Max and Evan. It's former co-host John Gilpatrick, and want to wish you a happy 200th episode. It has been a while, probably too long since I jumped on and chatted movies with you guys, but it's been, I had a great run on the show, 165 episodes. Glad it's still chugging along at 200 here, and hoping that you guys get 200 more in the can. It's been great just listening to you guys. My friendship with Max has, been so strong for 10 years now since we started this thing. Evan was such a delight whenever we were on the podcast together, and is great with Max now. And just really happy for you guys and wishing you all the best. Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Hey Max, Evan, and John in absentia. Just wanted to send a little note to say congratulations on hitting your 200th episode of It's the Pictures podcast. To do anything for almost 10 years as you have is quite the commitment. I say as someone who has been writing for almost 16 years and can't even remember now what a life was like without it. So I can only imagine what it feels like for you all playing around in those audio files. Thanks so much for always having me on to talk all things Venice Film Festival, as well as whenever you have me on for some other fun chats. The 6 times that I've been on It's the Pictures are the most that I've been on any show, and I'm so thankful that you all always want to have me around, and look forward to seeing where all will go in the future. Congratulations again.
Welcome to episode 200. That's episode 200 of the It's the Pictures podcast. And I'm pleased as punch to welcome you here to listen to another episode. We have a fantastic topic this week as well as a fantastic guest. But before we get to that, let me reintroduce my co-host, Evan Crean. How you doing, Evan?
I'm great, Max. Congrats on 200 episodes. This is exciting.
Thanks. I think it's actually like a little bit more than 200 with the bonuses that I've done in the past, but we're going to stick to this as the actual 200th episode and relish in it. We have, like I said, a wonderful topic for it. One of my favorite filmmakers we're going to be talking about tonight. We have our guest there, Toussaint Egan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, Toussaint, I would say you specialize in animation, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades when it comes as a freelancer, but one of my main areas of focus is animation and Japanese animation. Yeah.
Awesome.
Ooh, cool.
Where have you written, and where can people find your work?
Up until recently, I was the curation editor at Polygon. I am now a freelancer. I write for a lot of different places. I've written for, as of recently, AV Club, Cartoon Brew, Endless Mode, which is a new offshoot website of Paste.com that specializes in video games and anime, Epic Game Store blog, IO9, IGN, and most recently, RogerEbert.com. So
Ooh.
I've been busy. I've been cooking. So yeah.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. That you're certainly a man that's in demand. So before we get into our feature, which I'm happy to announce, Evan and I decided that it would be a great opportunity to, with this momentous 200th episode, to look at Miyazaki's films post 2000. We previously did an episode on some of his earlier works up to Princess Mononoke when the 4K release of Princess Mononoke was releasing in IMAX. And we thought that this was a great opportunity to finish the run here and conclude our coverage of his films for now.
Yeah, and to bring along a guest with subject matter expertise.
Certainly.
Yeah, and I'll also say I did a better job this time of doing my homework. So I've seen more of the movies. The last one we did, it was like, I think I'd seen like every other of the Miyazaki movies that we talked about. This one, there's only one movie I didn't get to, and others I'd seen and rewatched or watched. So doing pretty good today.
No, this is good. We have some people here that have like seen these movies and like know them like the back of their hand, and then other people who are like maybe just experiencing them and can give us that kind of feeling on it.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into our feature, we're going to take a moment and talk about the latest news in film and television, like we always do. And one of the biggest, we've seen a lot of trailers recently. There's been stuff for the movies that are going to be open in Venice and Toronto. One of the ones I really am looking for is like No Other Choice by Park Chan-wook. That there was a trailer for that.
Park Chan-wook, hive, rise up.
That trailer looked fantastic. But the one more people have probably seen is the new trailer for Avatar, which played in front of the Fantastic Four movie before being released online recently. This is the third film in the James Cameron Avatar series, not to be confused with the Avatar: The Last Airbender series.
Yeah, which is also
I think
its
is
own
having
movie next year.
Yeah, exactly.
So, who saw this trailer and wants to talk about it?
I saw it and I think it looks cool, and I can't wait. I can't wait to go back to Pandora. I can't wait to learn more about these. They're not evil. I don't think they're evil. I think they're just chaotic, neutral fire avatars who are just waging war because of their competing religious dogma, and it's being like exploited by the human colonizers. And now like the protagonists have to like find a way to either leave or fight back. Like we're getting a lot more complicated than just like Fern Gully reprise. We're finally getting into like the like larger sort of mythos of Pandora. So I'm interested in that.
Evan, do you have any thoughts?
I'm embarrassed to say I didn't watch the trailer. I started watching it like a minute ago, but didn't get a chance to finish it.
That's okay. Well, I'll, like Toussaint says, it's a lot of like building out the universe. Like last time we had the water avatars, and this time we have the fire avatars. I'm sure next time we'll have the earth avatars.
Yeah. Yeah. But I am
Multiple
looking at this.
avatars.
Exactly. But I am looking at this tweet that someone was saying that, everything looks so lush, and I'm looking at these screenshots from the trailer, and yeah, it does look pretty. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think 3D has officially died, except when like every other year now that these Avatar movies come out, because like these I want to see in 3D and put the glasses on. And
It's a very, very beautiful like trailer, and I never bet against Jimmy C. That's what I call That's what I call James Cameron. I call him Jimmy C. Never bet against Jimmy C. Everybody bet against Jimmy C when The Way of the Water came out, and he still made bank.
Yep, that's true.
I guess like from my standpoint as being like one of these people who like see these films up to award stuff, like they don't like screen these anymore because they're like, yeah, we don't need to screen Avatar movies. So it's like they'll compete in all the like technical stuff and win those things, but the movie doesn't really need that.
An adaptation of Joe Abercrombie's The Devils, which is
Yeah, I read that the other day.
The dark fantasy. I have that on my shelf right now, and I've been reading through it, and I like it a lot, so I'm very excited to see what it is from that. I know he's got another like real life like based movie that he's also working on as well, and he's going to be directing Avatar 4 and 5 in between that. So he's definitely of that breed, that rare breed of filmmaker like Ridley Scott, where he's not going to retire.
Yeah.
Good for him. Do what you love.
We need to get the Alita Battle Angel sequel too, right?
Yeah, that's still apparently that's still in the works. Apparently, Robert Rodriguez wants to do it, and I hope that they do it. I love Battle Angel Alita. That's like one of my first favorite mangas I ever read, and I was like so hyped when I saw what's his name was Destiny Nova at the end.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting that they cast Edward Norton because like they casted who as Alita's mentor, the doctor guy. He
Yeah, I forget who they cast in that role,
He's
but
the guy from Inglourious Bastards who plays like the evil
Christoph
guy.
Waltz. All right.
Christoph Waltz. Like Christoph Waltz is somebody who I could have totally seen like in a fan casting for Destiny Nova, and I think that it's so fascinating to me because I could totally see Edward Norton playing as Ilea's mentor, and the way they sort of like reverse casted that is it still blows my mind. And it's like I'm trying to get. At one point, I think I got down to the answer as to why, like Edward Norton ended up in that movie, and that was that he originally wanted to be in Avatar, and he did not want to be a human. He wanted to be like one of the Na'vi. He didn't want to be one of the Avatar, like whatever. And apparently there was a compromise where he then ended up just stepping into the role of Destiny Nova for a cameo in Battle Angel Alita, or Alita Battle Angel. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Some good factoids there.
That was just me off the top of my head. I love Battle Angel Alita. Yeah.
I think another tie between us and Alita Toussaint is like that was my first freelance Polygon article was talking about the OVA.
That was such a good article. I remember reading that because like I had asked that question before too. I had always wanted to know the answer to that question, and the whole reason why an anime does not exist of what would otherwise be like a
slam dunk. Yeah.
especially Battle Angel Alita Last Order, at least like the first couple of like books of that would be such a dope OVA. And the whole reason behind it is that when Guillermo del Toro introduced James Cameron to Battle Angel Alita, and when James Cameron visited Yukito Koshiro, who is the mangaka of Alita, he sold them the rights, but those rights also included television and anime rights as well too. It wasn't just like circumspect to like film, and because he sort of like gave that over, there's just no path forward to making an
modern anime
without going through James Cameron, unless James Cameron and Koshiro can somehow sit down at the table again and renegotiate this stuff. I hope that can happen. I don't know if that will ever happen, but like, I like do it for the culture, man. Do it for the culture. Like we need a Battle Angel Alita anime. Like it needs to happen.
Yeah, that would be really cool if it did. But we're gonna actually stay in animation here, and guys, the biggest movie of the summer wasn't like Superman, although Superman did really well, but it was Lilo and Stitch, another one of these Disney remakes.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it has domestically, it's made over $400 million. So people just went back to the theater for something familiar.
Yeah.
And
that's fine. Sure, that's fine. He's like, show up to some other stuff too, but like, you know.
And so there was a teaser recently of like Stitch driving around in a cart. I think that kind of announced that the second movie was in production, but also the trades, like Hollywood Reporter, saying that the original creator, Chris Anderson, is being... Is it Chris Anderson or is Chris Anders? Let me get it right. It's Chris Sanders. He's coming back to write the script for the second one. So
Lilo and Stitch heads, rise up! I'm happy for you. I hope I can get that Battle Angel Alita movie that I want.
What I think what's funny about this whole thing is like Disney has the numbers of like what is popular on Disney Plus, and I think Lilo and Stitch was a really popular movie for the service, and like that's like it kind of why it was put into production in the first place. And I think it was going to be a Disney Plus live action movie, like similar to I guess the Lady and the Tramp one that we got a little while back.
Yeah.
But you know, they made the smart move and just said, yeah, we're just going to ship this off to theaters and make millions upon millions.
Yeah. Good for them, I guess.
Did either of you have a chance to see this one over the summer?
Nope.
No, I love the original Lilo and Stitch, and I'm. It's not that I have an avowed sort of antagonism towards these live action or 3D animated live action hybrid remakes of old Disney like classics or stuff like that. It's just, it doesn't interest me. If I want to go back to revisit those, I'll revisit those films because I liked those films. Remaking them, I don't know if there's nothing inherently intriguing about that to me. You know, it's just like, okay, cool. It's kind of like cosplay. And I'm just like, that's fun, but it's not like, you know.
Right, and it's funny. I didn't share this on the podcast yet because I did it between the last episode. But in my area in Rhode Island, there's actually a drive-in theater, and my wife and I took our child to see a double feature drive-in, and the first was the Smurfs animated movie, which I couldn't even tell you what was going on, but my child loved it.
Yeah, sure.
And the second one was the How to Train Your Dragon remake, and like people were asking me like, how was it? And I'm like,
it was How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, if you like the original, you'll probably like this. There's nothing different about it.
Yeah.
So,
that flavor you love is back in style. They released it. They came out with Pepsi Crystal again.
Right, and that's why I was like, it was such an interesting question for people to ask me, because I was just like, I didn't know where else to go with it. To just say like, I didn't hate it. Like I couldn't hate it because I think I really enjoyed the original. So, but it's literally the exact movie.
Yeah, I hear that.
And then we got news that the long-shelved Coyote versus Acme movie.
Yes, let's go.
I'm psyched about this.
Yeah, it was originally shelved by Warner Brothers, and Ketchup Entertainment came in and bought the license and all the packaging for it, and now they're just setting a plan in motion. And I guess like at Comic-Con over the last weekend or so, they announced that it's coming out August 2026.
That was the same distributor that saved The Day the World Blew Up. The Day the
That's
Earth
right.
Blew Up
Yeah.
as well too. So I'm glad that they're sort of like picking up the pieces that are left. It's such an easy slam dunk to just believe in these films. I don't know what Warner Brothers Discovery, or should I say Warner Brothers and Discovery now that they're back to it. It's like we're Max, but actually no, we're HBO Max now. But we were HBO Max before, then we're Max, then we're HBO Max, and I'm just like, can you just figure out your whole whatever and just like print the money and just put the movie in the damn theater? Like, just do it. I don't care.
Evan, these guys have been paid millions of dollars to make these decisions, to make changes and then go back to what they were.
I don't know. It's like there was this post on Blue Sky that I saw where it's like this kind of pathology of mindset that is among most of C-suite and entertainment, where you cannot acknowledge that you made a mistake or you did something wrong, because that means that you're not successful. So there has to be a way you can sort of pivot this. It's like, no, I was right, but we just have to pivot it in the direction that I originally planned it to be. You know, it's like, it's your fault for misinterpreting my edicts. I'm just like, okay.
Alrighty. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, like, again, like, if you hadn't heard about the movie, I guess like it's this idea that Wile E. Coyote is finally fed up with Acme and their faulty products, and he's taking them to court. And I guess like Will Forte plays a major role in this one.
I think he's got a case. I think you know what? I think he's got a case, and you know what? We'll just let the court settle it. Let's just let the court settle it. For too long, this man has been just like, this coyote has just been
sold faulty goods, right?
Just sold faulty goods, faulty wares.
All right, great. So I guess this is going to be the final box office game update for the season, Evan. since our last episode, it's been 2 weeks past the opening of Fantastic Four, First Steps. That was really the last one we were waiting for results on. And I don't think it necessarily blew the doors away, but it did what I needed it to do. To kind of
get you out in front.
Yeah, to secure the victory here. Evan and I both hit over $1 billion, with Evan just coming in just above $1 billion right now. I think Superman still has some legs though, so that will continue to pick up money over the next few weeks. Then we have Fantastic Four First Steps doing enough. I think like the reviews probably helped it. People are like finally like, oh, a decent Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah,
let's see
low
what's
bar, but like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of exists by itself. This was one that I had a chance to see as well since we last talked, and it takes place in like a retro future version of Earth that's like really removed from anything else in the MCU. So it kind of like didn't have any of the baggage that comes with a lot of these movies.
Until it then eventually
ties in.
rope into the baggage that is the prime universe timeline of the MCU.
Right.
That's what they should just do for Blade. I don't know why why so many. So not to get on a tangent here, but we're talking about like MCU stuff. It's just like I don't know why it's so hard to crack a Blade movie in a post MCU era. Just set it in its own universe and then have him fall into a wormhole, and he's in the main MCU. It's like you don't have to. I like heard of the thing where like the costumes.
Yeah, I read
that were in Sinners were actually originally made for a version of Blade that were sold to the production of Sinners, and I'm just like, oh my god, Sinners ate Blade in the womb. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm just like, wow. And I was like, I love Sinners, but I was just like, it shouldn't have to come at the cost of another. We can have 2 black vampire movies, It's okay. Like, it's all good. But, like, I don't know. God bless them. I hope they figure it out.
Yeah, I think I read recently, too, that I think they were asking, like, oh, we wanted to make sure that the outfit was more than just, like, Mahershala Ali in a cape.
Why?
I'm like, how
like
can
in a leather coat. I'm just like, you don't need to make this more complicated. You don't need to modernize Blade. Like you don't. There's like people try to modernize Shaft, and look what happened to that. I was like, just put him in a leather coat. It's like, give him a katana. That's it. It's so easy.
It's not that hard, guys.
It's like, no, I got to make it hard for myself. I got to reinvent the wheel all over again. I'm just like, everybody loves. You'll reinvent the wheel for Blade, but you'll still remake Lilo and Stitch, which is basically the same damn movie. Make it make sense. Like, just make it make sense. Anyway.
So, Evan, do you have anything to add about the box office game this year? Were you satisfied in how much closer it was?
Yes. Yeah, I felt much better this year. That it was pretty neck and neck for a while, and I feel like this is a respectable loss.
It's an honorable loss.
Yeah, I think we both picked well. I think like had we got to do it again, what were the top 3? Was it Dragon, Lilo and Stitch, and Superman? Really, those were the big heavy hitters, right?
Mm-hmm. Although I think, what was it you said that neither of us picked? Was it Final Destination? And that one actually performed really well, so that was like a miss maybe on both our parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I think like what was the F1 has actually been doing well. It's probably like the best like racing movie box office ever, so that was also a surprise. I think it has like 173 million or something. So the only thing I can really say about F1 other than I had a good time is that I hope Apple continues to release movies in theaters, even though like most of them like have stunk. I think if F1 failed, they'd just like peace out on the theatrical engagement. So
Are they involved at all with like Heat 2?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know that Michael Mann is producing that. That's the next thing that he's working on now.
maybe the secret is actually the co-collaborations, because I think Warner Brothers is in on F1, so they're actually going to have a physical media release.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Killers of the Flower Moon does not.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why can't we have a Martin Scorsese movie on physical media?
Oh my God, yes,
So-
absolutely.
So yeah, we'll see about that. But now is time to get into our feature, which is talking about the great Hayao Miyazaki, and his works post 2000. This includes 5 movies: Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Ponyo, The Wind Rises, and most recently, The Boy and the Heron. Almost like a Hail Mary, The Boy and the Heron, right? Because it was like we thought for a long time we'd never get another Miyazaki film, and a decade
like
later,
10 years. So
Yeah.
It's like, are we ever going to like? If The Wind Rises was his final film, it's a hell of a final film, and this one is also a hell of a final film as well too. So, and apparently he's working on another one as well now too. So just like every movie that he has to offer is a gift, and so like let's just hope he gets to make it.
yeah, I think he's one of those guys that like he thinks that he should retire, but I think he's happiest when he's working. At least like from the documentaries I've seen.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what he lives for, is to continue working and creating. So I think like Toussaint and I, we had a lot of familiarity with a lot of these movies. Haven't seen them probably multiple times or a lot throughout the years. Evan, you said, I think before air, that like some of the ones in the early Miyazaki you hadn't seen all of them. Here were the ones that you like caught for the first time during our feature discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd seen Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle before. Spirited Away a couple times, Howl's once. But for me, this outing, I saw Ponyo for the first time and Boy and the Heron for the first time. So
Okay, great.
it's first time watches.
I'll be interested with the discussion when we get to Boy and the Heron, because I think like that movie is deceptive with how layered it can be. But we're gonna start with my goat of Miyazaki films, which is Spirited Away. I think like I saw this when I was probably like 16, 17, and I just remember like feeling that I'd never seen something that like took me away like that before. Miyazaki's worlds weren't something that I was very familiar with, because I guess like I hadn't really imported Princess Mononoke. Maybe I didn't grow up with Totoro. For all the bad that John Lasseter has done to the people, he also was helpful, and so was in a way Quentin Tarantino in bringing Miyazaki over to America and letting Americans know about these creators. And so that was really my first introduction to Miyazaki's works, and I was simply blown away. I love this movie. It stars I actually just watched it this afternoon, so I'll do the summary before we jump into our discussion on it. And it stars a young girl named Chihiro, who is like leaving her school and moving to a new home with her family, and she's complaining in the car that she's getting flowers for the first time. They're goodbye flowers, and she's just like, she seems like she's really clingy and hasn't had the opportunity to grow up yet. And her parents take a wrong turn and end up at this, like, what the father says is an abandoned amusement park from the 90s.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's like, whatever, man, this doesn't look like that, but you do you. And they come across a food stall, and they quite literally pig out until they become pigs. And Chihiro,
which is horrific, by the way. I love the transmorgification of Chihiro's parents into pigs. It's like, it's as disgusting and disturbing as it was when I first watched it, and yeah, excellent.
Yeah, when I had it on this afternoon, my spouse was very much like, "Oh, our child's not ready to watch this yet."
Yeah. You know what? In control instances, it is it's okay to scare your kid with like media sometimes, just because it helps them brace them for things can be scary, but also things can also be okay, and just moderately. You gotta condition it a little bit. Yeah.
It's so many people just remember viscerally the parents turning into pigs, but like this time I was like really paying attention to it, and like there's also like the spirits like slap the pigs.
Oh yeah.
Like this
You're not
is
supposed
like
to be eating here.
yeah. This is just like not only you're seeing your parents get turned into animals, but also like physically abused in front of you. So yeah, it's pretty tense. And she quickly learns in order to survive in this world, she's going to have to get a job and kind of fit in, so she won't get turned into an animal herself. And so the place where she works is this like magnificent bathhouse where they bathe wandering spirits. And there's like two big episodes for Chihiro during this period where she's kind of helping these spirits take baths, whether or not it's just one with like gunk in it, and another one which is a character known as No Face, which is just like the epitome of like gluttony, and shows off everyone's greed at the bathhouse. There's a lot of that, right, from the parents turning into pigs, of this like gluttony in the world of spirited away. But there's a lot of wonderful characters that Chihiro meets, and also this dragon boy who becomes her closest ally while she's in the bathhouse. But yeah, I love all the characters, all the creatures. I think each one is, incredibly interesting and exciting to meet, from even the soot spites that eat the candy.
Love them. Love the soot sprites.
Miyazaki is like an expert at creating little guys that you just love. Always making little guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right,
little guys that you love. That's such a great description of them.
Right, so even like the witch Yubaba's son, which is Yubaba's like the big head honcho sorceress of the bathhouse, he turns into like this little mouse creature like late in the movie, which is really funny. But yeah, I was watching it this afternoon. I love the movie. It's my favorite Miyazaki movie, and probably in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, regardless. I mean, like a lot of people, Toussaint and I probably talk about this a lot, is like some people like kind of other animation and don't consider it within the realm of best movies because they kind of other it. But it's definitely, animated or not, one of the best movies, I think.
I think that it's definitely Miyazaki's. I would say arguably it's definitely his most well-known film, like just because of the time that it actually came out in, and the fact that it was the first Japanese animated film to win the Oscar for best animated film. There's a lot that's sort of like loaded into that as well too. Is like the aforementioned like John Lasseter of it all is like him sort of like being tasked to aggressively campaign on behalf of Spirited Away. Not saying that Spirited Away did not deserve to win that award, but I think that you cannot overlook the John Lasseter effect. I mean, John Lasseter is very, very different in 2001, 2002 than he is known as in 2025, of course, right. Because he was the head honcho of Pixar Studios, and he had just come off of the momentous turn of having directed Toy Story and Bug's Life. So like he exerted a lot of influence when it came to the animation industry and the legitimizing of the animation industry as a whole in that time. When it came to that, and when he spoke, people listened, and I think that part of his campaigning was really what spurred people to have Ghibli on their radar with whatever that studio produced and whatever Hayao Miyazaki produced, and that still has a lasting effect to this day, for both good and for bad, because then it's sort of like, oh, like Ghibli is the art anime. Everything else is sort of like the plebeian anime.
Yeah, I get that. It's like it's almost like how Wes Anderson's films feel like with the Criterion label and everything, right? It's just Evan, what's your past with Spirited Away, or even your present with Spirited Away?
Oh, well, I'd seen it for the first time a few years ago, and I loved it so much so that I bought it on Blu-ray, and I didn't actually just watch it on HBO Max since they've had all the Studio Ghibli
But you want
movies.
to own it. You want to have it
Yes.
in your home.
Yeah, I wanted to have it because I enjoyed it so much, and it's definitely, I think, for me, My Neighbor Totoro is still my favorite Miyazaki movie, but Spirited Away is probably like number 2 because I just think it's such an incredible film. It's such a, I don't know, it's such a tense journey. It's very unsettling and disturbing, as you both kind of mentioned. It like as an adult watching it's just deeply unsettling. The transformation of her parents into the pigs, and all of the other guests at the bathhouse, and the creatures, and like the gunk and the goo and the viscera of this movie. It's all just, it makes my skin crawl in a good way. It's gross and weird, and yeah, I found it just as captivating on this watch. And the creatures you mentioned, the soot sprites, I really loved the paper creatures that were like attacking the dragon. Those were really cool. I love the part, as you mentioned, where they transform the baby into I don't even know what to call it. It's like a mouse kind of looking creature. And then the bird creature is transformed into like a smaller bird. I don't really know what to call that either. But yeah, I really enjoyed revisiting this because it's so well done. It's such a fascinating and tense journey with such momentum to it in a way that not necessarily all Miyazaki movies have, like a kind of narrative tension that's kind of like driving them forward in the way that I feel like Spirited Away does.
Like after she discovers her parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I now that I'm thinking about it, I really just have to pick up that score sometime because I just love the song that plays like during that. Like that is a core sense memory that I remember that song in the trailer for Spirited Away, and that sort of like really drew my attention to seek out that movie when I was younger. And yeah, it's an enduring, just like it's an enduring piece of work. I love it so much.
Yeah, one like if you guys were mentioning scenes, one of the ones that I was watching, which I always find fascinating, and right after Chihiro's running on the bridges, is that has to go down the stairs to.
Oh, the stairs are cool.
Yeah, to meet the furnace guy for the first time, and like it's just like this idea of like she has to overcome these stairs, or like each stair is like a journey, and you get the sense like very much like it's definitely a coming of age movie in like another world, because Chihiro is definitely a different person when she leaves.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like when we were watching it, my wife said like it's too bad her parents will never know any of this happened, because I think they'd be really proud of her for all the shit that she had to do and how she had to survive. Like it was specifically, we were watching the moment where she has to dash across that drain pipe that like basically like falls off, and she has to make that leap to the ladder. And there's so many like physically demanding, scary things that she does because she just has to. She doesn't have a choice. And there's so many moments in the movie where she's kind of got her back against the wall and just doesn't have any other option but to kind of fight her way out.
Yeah. But she knows that she did it, and she's a different person for it, and she's grown a lot for it. So I think they'll, even if they don't understand, like they'll notice that she's grown up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like we another thing we mentioned during our earlier episodes is that Miyazaki likes to focus on these strong female characters, and that was like something that not a lot of directors certainly did. Outside of like, I guess the Disney movies were named after women, but that sometimes it was the men who were coming in to really save the day or do stuff. So it's always fun to see Miyazaki's heroines rise above. And for me, Spirited Away with Chihiro growing and taking care of business is right up there for me.
Yeah, he specifically made Spirited Away to appeal to 10-year-old girls. He wanted to make a movie for 10-year-old girls because he thought that he'd already made a movie for children, which was Totoro, and he already made a movie for teenagers, which was Kiki's Delivery Service. And so this is him sort of like circling back from that and sort of drawing inspiration from this bathhouse that he saw when he was a kid, and he never knew what it was, and he always imagined what went on there and other stuff like that. And so that was sort of the launch pad for him to sort of go into Spirited Away.
And so certainly we could give a whole hour to each one of these movies, but our podcast doesn't really go into that much depth on each movie. Yeah. So we're gonna sadly move away from Spirited Away and go to Miyazaki's next movie, which was a big deal, because like now Spirited Away was this world-renowned movie. Miyazaki's the expectations were through the roof. Miyazaki adapted part of a novel for Howl's Moving Castle, almost like similar to Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, where like that one is kind of incomplete, where like it only tells half a story. This is very much the same thing, where Howl's Moving Castle kind of stops kind of in the middle of the action, and read the book to find out more, I guess. Toussaint, can you give us a little bit about what Howl's Moving Castle is about?
It's Diana Wynne Jones's 1986 novel. It's very interesting to sort of like talk about the production for this film, because when Spirited Away won the Academy Award in 2003, Miyazaki was not there to accept the award for Spirited Away winning that. He just wasn't there, and like there were sort of numerous rumors and stuff, excuses as to why he didn't do that. And it was only till after the fact, when he was working on this film, or maybe it was like years after the fact, that Takahata, who is one of the co-founders of Studio Ghibli and is basically Miyazaki's longtime producer, basically allowed Miyazaki to come out and say that, yeah, the reason why he wasn't there to accept the award is because he was doing it in protest of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, which literally happened like, I think, less than a month, like just a couple of weeks before the Academy Awards. So he couldn't stand to do that. And so Howl's Moving Castle is very much in keeping with Miyazaki's like previous established themes of like strong female protagonists, the dignity of people who are older, specifically the protagonist herself, who is transformed into an old woman and showing that she can still do things even though she's older, and to just like be able to see the magic that is in everyday life, looking at the world from a different sort of adjacent slant. But it's also an explicitly anti-war movie, because you have these two different sides who, while their ideologies are not necessarily fleshed out in a real way, it's sort of hinted at that one of the impetuses for why this war is happening is that the prince of one neighboring kingdom has disappeared and is believed to have been kidnapped by the other country, and so that is sort of inflaming these sort of like pre-existing tensions that eventually come out into sort of like all-out war between these two factions. And Howl himself is just sort of like this. He's like a conscientious objector, because while he is obligated to come to the defense of either one of these countries because he's a wizard and that's part of like his code to serve that, he just doesn't want to be involved with that at all. And also he's actually playing both sides, because he maintains a shop in both countries as like Pendragon or some other wizard.
Jenkins.
Or whatever. Yeah, Jenkins, Great Wizard Jenkins, and like while he is doing that, he also flits off to sabotage the war efforts like indiscriminately on both sides because he just thinks that it's just causing chaos. So yeah, I love this movie. This is actually, I recently went to the music box because they had a repertory series called Destination Ghibli, which was like airing all these different Studio Ghibli movies in honor of the studio's 40th anniversary in Chicago. And after we're watching this, I think this is definitely probably one of my top 3 personal favorite Miyazaki films. Like I love the design of Howl's moving castle itself. It's definitely an instance of artistic license, because in the original book, I understand that it's never actually explicated how the moving castle moves, and his like sort of idea was to just make it this sort of like quadrupedal, like piranha-like, steampunk adjacent moving jalopy of various parts and chimneys and turrets and what have you, that is sort of just cobbled together via the magic of this fire demon named Calcifer, who for whatever reason is bound in service to Howl, and that is what is making that magic sort of like happen. And over the course of the movie, you also see the interior of the castle transform via Howl's spells and stuff like that. And I love the idea of this sort of like infinite like contraption space that moves on chicken legs, like Baba Yaga's house or something. And it's like steampunk. It's like it definitely is, in my mind, one of the most captivating designs that Miyazaki has ever created, and that's saying something. That's really, really saying something, given his long and illustrious career. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Evan, do you have anything to add about Howl's Moving Castle?
So I didn't end up getting to a full rewatch of this. I remember watching the first time, feeling like I really enjoyed the movie, but I feel like for me it kind of fell apart in the last act. On rewatch, I was very much enjoying the characters that Sophie interacts with, specifically Calcifer. I really liked him a lot on rewatch, and I love the Scarecrow, like the turnip head Scarecrow. Also just like super charming and funny. And so on this viewing, I was just enjoying a lot of the like character interactions as much as I was enjoying the art direction. Like you were saying, Toussaint, like the moving castle is such a fascinating design, and how it like works and how it looks, and you could see why people in the story are like, whoa, what the heck is that thing? They're like stopping and talking about it. It's kind of like the talk of the town in the beginning, like, oh, did you see, Hal's moving castles out there, like run around the countryside. So yeah, I like the way it plays with the space inside the castle, the different rooms, and seeing inside the different rooms, different levels, and all that stuff. I think was really good. To your point, it there's a great story there about Sophie, about how she's transformed into an old woman, but she's still, very capable, and it's speaking to that, what you were saying about the dignity of older people and not counting them out. And so I guess I was just really responding to those pieces, and so like even though I didn't get to re-examine the part that I feel like wasn't working for me so well, I was enjoying rewatching it as a whole, because there's also the compelling anti-war commentary, as you mentioned, and seeing him kind of playing against both sides. And there's that scene where he's transformed himself into like the bird creature, and he's trying to stop the bombers, and comes back in and just kind of like slumps over, just exhausted from it all. That was also really resonant with me.
Other wizards who were enlisted in the army being like sort of transformed into these formless blob monsters that like just assail him while he's like attacking the ships. And just like I think that Howl sort of like turning into this like bird of prey and subsequently sort of like losing his humanity all the while sort of waging this, is that like even in the way of him being a conscientious objector, he is still interjecting himself into war, and as a result being dehumanized by that, being dehumanized by his own participation, even if it's to intervene. Like there's no way you can be in a war and not suffer dehumanization in some way or another. So I think that was also very very poignant, you know.
Yeah, so for me, like, I don't know if you guys watch a lot of dubs or subs, or if you have either way of that argument, but often I like to watch Miyazaki movies with their native Japanese language, and but like Billy Crystal doing Calcifer is just really good.
I love the dub for this movie. I think that Christian Bale did a great job as Howl, and Billy Crystal. Yeah, that's Calcifer to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say normally I do watch the sub. I don't watch the dub, but I did in this instance. Not to jump ahead too much, I did watch the dub for Ponyo, and I think my problem is that like typically the celebrity voices to me, the American celebrity voices, are just too distracting. Like I feel myself taken out of the movie because I'm hearing their voices, and I feel like sometimes, or maybe it was with Ponyo in particular, that the vocal performances did not feel like they had the necessary depth to them. They felt kind of like rushed, like people were rushing through the material, and it just wasn't landing dramatically for me.
Well, no, this is a good opportunity to move on to Ponyo. I just want to shout out Joe Hisashi's score for Howl's Moving Castle. You'll hear like merry-go-round, like any like reels anywhere. So shout out Joe Hisashi for this one. But yeah, Ponyo. It's funny. Like I always thought like this was like his other little kid movie because it features little kids, but it's not as accessible nearly as Totoro is. This
definitely the Shaggy Dog of Miyazaki's post 2000 era. I think that's often the sort of like consensus when it comes to how it's placed in rankings and stuff like that. But it's still a wonderful movie. I love Ponyo. I'll definitely show it to my kid.
Yeah.
When they're grown enough, and I'm just like, yeah, it's just like I love the animation.
So Evan, were you specifically talking about like Liam Neeson in this, like playing the father, like?
Oh yeah. Liam Neeson, Tina Fey. I feel like Tina Fey's performance was just not good. Yeah.
Stunt casting.
Yeah. Those voices were just not working for me, in particular in watching the dub on this one.
You almost feel like Disney had this partnership with Miyazaki Films for a long time, and they probably said that they looked at Ponyo and they're like, "What are we gonna do with this movie?"
Right.
Because of course, like Ponyo starts like this little like almost like fish and mermaid that like escapes and with some blood of a little boy starts becoming a human of herself, and it's really this relationship between this boy and what he thought is his fish, and becomes much more than just his fish.
Yep, become friends.
Yes.
The scene of her running along the highway atop a tsunami wave of fish is like indelible. That is the indelible image of Ponyo, in my opinion. Every time I think about that film, like that's the thing that sticks out to me the most. I love that. I love the playfulness of that scene. I love how harrowing that is, and everyone's just terrified, and she's just like, "Hi."
Yeah, that is a great scene. Seeing her run atop the waves while the other like the fit. What are the other ones that are like her? Basically, they turn into those like big fish, and they're all like bouncing along through the waves, and that whole sequence. But actually, you're kind of reminding me of something that I noticed, at least in a couple of the Miyazaki movies that I watch, and that is, in this movie, the mom is a reckless driver, like totally reckless.
Yeah.
and specifically in this scene where they're like, no, you can't go that way. Like the water is gonna wash out the road. She's like, I don't care. I'm going that way. But like in that, and also in, the opening, the opening of Spirited Away, like the parents are driving so recklessly, and I'm just like, it seemed like it was like a running theme in his movies that there was just like no reason for people just driving recklessly.
They all just drive like Lupin the Third in Castle of Cagliostro, and just like, you're not being chased. You just have to observe the rules of the road.
Yeah. So that was something I noticed watching this movie. Like, wait a minute, is this a running theme? Reckless driving?
No, but Evan, you say like they're supposed to come friends, but like the end of this movie, like I think they're supposed to be bonded for life. Like very much like Ponyo's mother, like says like, "Are you prepared to like watch over my daughter for the rest of your life, little like 6-year-old?"
That's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure on a 6-year-old. You should not let a 6-year-old make a decision like that. It's like signing up for a credit card when you're 6 years old. Only worse. Take out a loan. Take out a mortgage loan. I'm just like, you're good for it.
Yeah. I think as an adult, I barely grasp the concept of APR.
Oh my god. Are you ready to sign up for this APR, 6-year-old boy?
Well, the theme of Ponyo really is about Miyazaki's like love of the environment too. I mean, we haven't talked about that tonight a lot, but we talked about that like in stuff like Princess Mononoke earlier, and Nausicaa certainly. Just this idea of like protecting our environment and like being aware of what we're doing. Certainly. But yeah, I don't. To tell you the truth, Toussaint, I don't know if I really love Ponyo either. It's like a movie like I'll watch, but like it's not like one that I would say like I need to put on in his library and be like.
Definitely not top tier Miyazaki, but even non-top tier Miyazaki is still often leagues above other people. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, I hear that. So I didn't hate Ponyo, but I also didn't really like it that much. I found it just, for the most part, I felt like it was kind of just puttering along and just completely lacked the narrative tension that you find typically in a Miyazaki movie. It just felt kind of like inert to me for large chunks of the movie, and I just like found myself bored. Like, okay, I'm just like not really plugged into it. It's not like horrible, but also it's not great.
All right. Moving on from Ponyo then. 5 years later, Miyazaki would return with what many thought was his last film, The Wind Rises. It's a very like autobiographical film about Miyazaki and his upbringing. Of course, it has a big sequence of one of the like very memorable earthquake catastrophes in Japan. That's like a big central part of this movie. Also, Miyazaki's love of like aviation comes through very heavily, of course, with its main character and his battles of wanting to create these beautiful planes, but the only way he can do it is through funding through military purposes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of spurious sort of commentary when it comes to this film that I feel like it dips over into sort of a bad faith characterization of what this film is trying to say with regard to militarism and what it's talking about for like creating these planes. Like there's the character of Jiro, the protagonist. This whole film is based off of a semi-autobiographical novel called The Wind Has Risen by Tatsuo Hori, but it also is partially autobiographical in the sort of like late period of Miyazaki's work, where it's Jiro wants to be an airplane mechanic, right? He wants to be an airplane mechanic, but he just so happens to be born in the early 20th century, which is Japan about to enter into a world war, right? And so, like, the only time for him to be able to do what he really wants to do and follow his heart in that is by making warplanes. And I think that this was something that, like, oh my god, this is so many years ago. I did this list top 100 anime films with Jason DeMarco.
Mhm.
And I remember that DeMarco wrote something really, really poignant for the description for The Wind Rises, and that he sort of characterized it as this movie sort of wrestles with the fact that when you put your work out into the world, you don't necessarily have control over how people are going to receive it. Like, you really want to just create a plane for the love of flying, and
Right.
if it was your choice, you wouldn't even have weapons on it. He imagines having like a large carrier plane that just carries people across the sky, and that it has no weapons on it, and just like maybe after the war or something like that. Like, that's really his sort of like passion. But it just so happens that he is creating weapons of destruction, and there's sort of that inherent tension there, where it's just like he wants to just create things for himself, but his work will go out into the world and be received in a totally different way. So and that may be just totally contrary to what he even intended.
Mhm.
So it's like negotiating that balance between the love of flight and how that miracle of flight is being sort of circumvented into something like destructive.
Yeah, Evan, was this one you got to watch recently?
No, this was the only one that I didn't get a chance to.
You should
to
definitely
see.
watch this one. I love this one. I saw this in theaters. I thought it was great. Yeah, and I love another curious quirk about this. Like, I know that this was definitely in the Kingdom of Dreams and Madness. That was this film was the subject of that documentary, and it's so funny to see like Miyazaki in real time struggle to find a voice actor for Jiro, and him sort of like joking. I was like, oh, we should get Anno to do this. We should get Hideki Anno, who is like one of
Evangelion creator,
and also like Miyazaki's protege. And he was just laughing about it, and then he just sort of thought about it, and you see real time footage of him, the gears turning in his head, and he's like,
why not?
wait a minute, well, like maybe I could, what about Anno? And then like him like asking Anno to do it for him, Anno saying yes, and him recording the lines, and just like when I was watching the movie, like I just leaned over to my friend, and I was like, that's Hideki Anno who is voicing that, and it's actually really good. Like, I like the nasally inflection of his voice. And it's just like, this guy is not made for war. That I love that. I love that's the aura that he gives off.
Yeah, that's where if you want to say like Ponyo was maybe like a more kids movie, Wind Rises is a step in the total opposite direction. This is like maybe one of his most mature films. Like I tend to think like Princess Mononoke is like his most like adult like action film, but like this is like right up like his adult drama with what it tackles. When you were mentioning the documentaries, I saw one of them. If it was not that one, it was a different one, but it was like one scene in The Wind Rises was like it took like months and months and months just to animate during the earthquake, and it's just like that's wild.
Craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And just like that's what it takes to really do that. It's like not to tangential or anything, but it's just like, the manga for Akira, Katsuhiro Otomo, when he painted or illustrated the big dome explosion that sort of destroys Neo Tokyo in the comic, right? He like painstakingly like etched the black of all those interiors and did all those different effects himself, because he just was like, this explosion is going to destroy all these lives in this city, and so I need to give it the proper attention that it deserves. And just like that kind of like painstaking craftsmanship and artistic integrity in service of the work, like it's irrefutable. It's just like you can't argue with either the results or even like the sentiment behind it. It matters.
Yeah, and I hate to say that I won't spoil it for Evan, given that he has another podcast called Spoiler Piece Theater. um,
Yeah, it's
but
okay. I can handle it.
yeah, this movie's 13 years old now, but The Wind Rises also has a pretty moving romance that runs through it, and it's definitely something I fully remember about the movie. Okay. I guess we'll move on from The Wind Rises. Miyazaki would go from that and announce his retirement, I believe, for the second time. And
actually, he's done it a lot of times. He does it so many times. I can't even remember. I think he said something about after Castle in the Sky or after Nausicaa or something like that. It's just like this guy just keeps on doing it. But no, I think he I think he intended it, but he just can't.
Yeah, I think he worked on something called like Borrow the Caterpillar that plays at the Miyazaki Museum. People thought maybe that was his last work. Yeah. He ended up announcing that he was working on a new title, The Boy and the Heron. I remember how jazzed about it I was, and then I can't talk about this movie without talking about his marketing campaign, which was nothing.
Yeah, it was titled "How Do You Live?"
Yes.
And all they had was this image of what looked like a boy wearing some type of bird-shaped costume or whatever, and they did not show anything else other than that concept art and the title of the film. And I think that was really wise on their part, just because they know that it's a Hayao Miyazaki film, and either you're down for that or you're not. It's like you don't need to see the trailer for The Boy and the Heron or The Wind or How Do You Live, because the trailer is the precedent of all the other films that he has made before up to this point. And it's like that's what you're coming to the theater to see, a new work from Hayao.
Yeah, I loved that marketing campaign. I remember before it was Go Play at TIFF, because it's like its North American premiere was at TIFF, and I went that weekend to see it, and I think G Kids started releasing some images of it because
they just like, look, we gotta do something for this. Like,
yeah. And I was like, no, I've waited this long. I'm not gonna watch any of it. But yeah, the Boy and the Heron is basically follows a young boy who loses his mother in this like tragic fire, and his father's getting remarried to, I guess, the mother's sister. And
that's not creepy at all, guys.
Look, it was just a different time. I don't know. It's just a different time. It's like...
and he's supposedly moving into a new town where she lives, and I guess she has a lot of elderly women with her. I guess they call them like the grannies or something. And the father's like kind of just like, I'm going to work, figure it out.
Yep.
Figure out your new school.
Woof. And this whole opening, by the way, it's just like when he gets there, he meets his like aunt, and she's like, guess what, I'm your new mommy now. Oh, feel my stomach, there's a baby in there, you're getting a new brother or sister. I'm like, whoa, lady, slow it down. This is like a lot for a kid to process.
You're laying a lot of trauma into me.
Yeah, and then it goes as far as the young boy doing some self-harm where he hits himself with a rock, which is like, whoa, this is going far. And he ends up meeting like this like really, I guess, bizarre Heron, who like we learn is like not all that it seems at first. And goes into this like also like magical tower that has like another world, right? Yeah, where they have like parakeets that walk around with giant butcher knives and stuff.
Oh my god, the parakeets.
Yeah,
I think
great.
the parakeets might have been my favorite part of this movie. Like, they're big, they're menacing, they'll eat anything. Yep, it's true. what are they called? The Wana something or other.
Pre-souls. Sort of just
Yep.
like pre-souls or something like that. Very, very. The Wara.
Yeah, Wara Wara. I wrote down in my notes before I could remember what they're called. Little ghosties.
Yeah, little ghosties. Yeah.
Evan, can you tell us a little bit more about this movie? Because it seems like you just watched this for the first time, huh?
Yeah, I finished it earlier today.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to think where do we leave off in our plot description?
He meets the Heron and he's going into the tower.
Right. Yeah, so he finds out the backstory behind the tower, that it was his aunt's great uncle or something built this estate, but then like the grannies or whatever tell him that like the tower like crash landed there from space, and then they built like another tower around it. And yeah, it's this like interdimensional portal, and let's see what happens. Yeah, he gets in that fight at school. He hurts himself. He's got the head injury that he's recovering from. His aunt really wants to see him, and he's kind of like blowing her off. And then he thinks, I know I'm jumping ahead a bit, but then he thinks he sees her going toward the tower, I think. So he follows down there and then ends up like going through the gateway into this other dimension. And you find out that basically like his family, the great grand uncle, I forget what he's like created this alternate he's created this alternate dimension, and there's this whole entire world on the other side, and his mom lives there as like the past version of herself when she was a kid, because there's like a story of like, oh, she disappeared, for what was it, a year or something like that, and then she came back and she looked exactly the same. And so like she's in there as this kind of like fire sorceress, and he's in there running around. He's trying to find his aunt, who is in there somewhere, and he's teamed up with one of the grannies comes with him, and ends up there's like a younger version of herself she's kind of like a pirate swashbuckler character who joins forces with him. And then they're fighting off all these creatures like the deadly parakeets. There's these pelicans that are attacking the little ghosties. And it's thank you. It's a series of adventures through there, and it kind of like culminates in the grand uncle says like, oh, I want you to be my successor, and I want you to like run this world that I've created, and like you can be the architect and you can make it anything you want to be. Does not sound great. No pressure. And then like the parakeets have their king, who also apparently wants to seize control, and he just like completely causes the world to collapse in on itself. And also the aunt at first is like, no, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here and like give birth to this baby. And I don't know if her long-term plan is to just stay there indefinitely, but she's definitely not ready to leave. And then, the world is collapsing, so everyone has to get the fuck out of there. Everyone's like escaped. So like by the end of the movie, like the mom, the younger version of the mom goes back to like her time period, as does the older version, or the younger version of the granny woman. And then he goes back, and all the parakeets and creatures come like crashing through the door, as well as like the tower collapses, and the dad like finds him and the aunt. He's like, oh, thank God you're okay. I think that's all the other pertinent plot info.
It's a really allegorically dense film for the fact that it's very much Miyazaki sort of wrestling with grief and mortality. It's him sort of imagining himself in part as Mahito, but also a part of him is also the grand uncle as well. Mahito is this young boy who is still dealing with the loss of his mother and the complicated feelings that he has, and this sort of the inability to sort of like talk to anybody about it, and how to sort of reconcile his feelings about his aunt, who is now his new mother, and the fact that he didn't get to say goodbye to his mom. That's sort of what this journey is also about, of him sort of like escaping into this liminal world that is at once the afterlife and also it is the past and the future a little bit as well too. It's like it's very very strange. It's hard to sort of like nail down what this place is, but it's sort of like a crossroads sort of realm that allows people who have both left and are going into life, sort of like entering that sort of like space. And him interacting with the granduncle. The granduncle is someone who has created this sort of like mythical world and is looking for somebody to sort of like leave it to, and that sort of in part kind of reflects Miyazaki's own desire and his own anxieties about sort of like
his own legacy,
and who is he going to pass it on to, and then the parakeets sort of represent the parakeets kind of represent these sort of like fans who want to seize the work for themselves and believe that they know what's best for the work, despite not creating any of the work. So that's very pointed and very interesting. And then it's like it ends with Mahito sort of like not doing that, not taking on the sort of mantle of becoming his granduncle's apprentice or the next inheritor of this sort of world, but really just choosing to go forward and live like in his own way. Like, how do you live? Like, he's just choosing not only to make peace with what he has lost in the past, but also to sort of just like move forward into the uncertainty of the future and building his whatever the next step is, like going forward and building his own life and deciding what that means, which I think is just very beautiful. It's a very beautiful sentiment, and also kind of indicative of Miyazaki sort of relinquishing that necessity that something has to live on beyond him. Is like he just is doing the work that he really wants to do with the rest of his life, and that's what anybody should do. Just do what you love best, and I love that about this movie. Yeah, it's really profound. I think it's very very profound. It's like it's something that it's a film that definitely benefits from repeat viewings.
Yeah,
it's nothing like it's
not as immediate as some of the other films.
It's not as immediate. It's way more dense. It's way more autobiographical. It's really more tangled up in sort of like in a dimension that is not necessarily needed in order to read a lot of his like earlier texts. You know.
Yeah, there was a documentary that HBO Max released like concurrently when this became on streaming called like Hayao Miyazaki and the Heron, and it does talk about like how Miyazaki was dealing with a lot of like loss in his life. Of course, Takahata had passed away, and just like wondering about his own mortality and how he was going to continue doing his work. Right. I think the Boy and the Heron was the first time he like had like someone else like a co-director almost who's not credited as a co-director but like helping with the production.
Yeah, because like he's just getting older. He's getting older, and that's another reason why like he continues to retire and semi-unretire and stuff like that. It's him sort of like that is in and of itself him wrestling with his own mortality, because he realizes that he can't draw as it's not that he can't draw as proficiently, it's that he is such an exacting taskmaster about the things that he does, that it does not measure up to like his own standard that he's made up to this point. His like he feels that his abilities are diminishing with his age, and that frustrates him because he does not want to create a subpar film, and yet at the same time he cannot stop creating. And that tension really is at the heart of like why it took so long for this film to come out, for there even to be a film to come out. And I feel like he's like the process of producing this film is him sort of like coming to the other side of that and just making peace with like his own perfectionism, not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good, and just making what he wants to make.
Well, I'm glad that after the movie was out and everything, people were quick to ask him, "Are you retired now?" And he was like, he wasn't ready to say that this
Yeah, I'm
time.
not gonna say it anymore. I've said that before so many times. I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that.
So we'll see. Evan, should I bother to ask if you liked The Boy and the Heron, or if you were just like kind of like middle of the road on it? Because I think like some people, like when I talk to people when they coming out of it, I almost felt like some people force themselves to like it because of what it is, and what might actually be there.
Well, I do feel like my gut reaction was kind of middling, and feeling like when I was experiencing this stuff very viscerally in the moment, that some of its themes felt kind of derivative of things like Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away, at least in terms of like the narrative, the journey that you go on. However, in listening to you talk about it, Toussaint, like I feel like I'm having more respect for it now, because there are those kind of like layers to it that maybe would benefit from another viewing, to kind of pull apart some of that stuff and not just be kind of going along for the ride, which is what I felt like I was pretty much just doing on this current viewing.
I do remember that this movie features a sort of interpolation of a painting by Arnold Böcklin, who was a Swiss symbolist painter, and it's called Isle of the Dead. It's probably his most famous painting. Video game players might recognize that from the video game Signalis. If you've played that game before, you probably recognize that. But it's definitely part of his sort of like interpretation of this sort of like afterlife. And I think that was just very interesting of him sort of like going back to like classical paintings and interpretations of what the afterlife looked like, and weaving that into sort of his own sort of like self-created mythos about what that's like. He made this film. He said that he made this film because he wanted to leave something to his grandchildren about him sort of like passing away, and sort of like how to sort of reconcile with grief, and understanding that, you know, it's okay for things to end, and it's okay to continue. And I think that's a really beautiful sentiment that also is echoed within the work itself. Yeah. The more I talk about it, the more I feel like this film rises in my own appraisal of it. Just consciously, it's just like these are things I just think about this film. But no, I think it's a remarkable work. And again, just to reiterate, like every film that Miyazaki has to offers is a gift, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to see this in a theater. That really meant a lot to me, just to be able to see a first run of
Yeah, that was pretty spectacular. I think that's a wonderful way to close our Hayao Miyazaki conversation. Before we move on to what we've been watching, we like to take a moment to kind of like plug the podcast and station identification, if you will. So I'll go ahead and get that started. You can find us on Blue Sky, Instagram, Letterboxd. Check us out. It's the Pick Pod, or It's the Pictures. Leave us a message there. Reach out. Share our stuff, please. You can email us at itsthepictures@gmail.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever podcatching app you like. If you leave us a review, 5 stars, please. Help us get bigger audience so people can hear what we're talking about, and follow along. As always, you can find me on Blue Sky at maxcoville.com, or just search Max Colville. That's probably the best place for me these days. Or you can check out my Letterboxd. I update that pretty frequently. Evan, where can people find you?
So people can find me every week over at Spoiler Piece Theater, the weekly film review podcast. And then you can also follow me on social media as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
All right, Toussaint, where can people find you?
They can find me on Letterboxd. They can also find me on Blue Sky. It's under my real name, Toussaint Egan. My handle is also all one word, the Saint of Tous, Tous,
Mm.
period, bsky dot social.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. Didn't you just announce a new project the other day, Toussaint?
Yes,
the Reframe project.
Yeah, we're starting up a animation newsletter, a weekly animation newsletter where we're just shooting the shit and we're just like posting about whatever we want to post about, and I love it. I just wrote my first post for that, so that should be going up probably on Tuesday, and then I got a whole bunch of other plans that I want to do. I got so many online animators that I've just been dying to talk to, and artists and other stuff like that. It's just like me just going ham with like two other writers that I really respect, Max Colville and.
Cool.
That's awesome. Congrats on the new project.
All right. And as always, if you'd like to subscribe to the newsletter, yes, unfortunately, we're still at Substack. It's pictures.substack.com. I did a post recently about trying to get off the platform if possible. I think other stuff I wrote about recently, I wrote about pregnancy in superhero movies because Fantastic Four First Steps has a pregnant superhero in it, and I was like having trouble remembering when I saw that on screen last, and I thought that was really an interesting part of Fantastic Four First Steps. Yeah, a little bit. What was WandaVision? Yeah. And like I mentioned in the post Toussaint the Spider Woman from Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah. The Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming out in 2027.
Yeah.
They should not have announced that was coming out
like 3 months later.
Later that year. I know that probably not their fault. Somebody else put the cart before the horse, and yeah, they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that was bad juju. All right. Now we're gonna go into the what you've been watching section, where myself, Evan, and now our guests will be able to announce like what we've been watching lately, whether it be TV, movies, anime, what have you. Just shooting the shit. Toussaint, what have you been watching lately?
Oh man, my media habits have been super weird. So like outside of the movies that I've been sort of like reviewing, like for my own personal casual entertainment, I've been watching through The Sopranos with my wife for the first time. Yes, I have not watched The Sopranos before this. I've only known like a couple things about that. My wife was turned on to it because like she saw this TikTok or whatever that was talking around like the series finale, and that piqued her interest to finally start watching it. So we've been watching it now, and surprise, it's really good. It's really good. We're just about to almost be finished with the first season, and we're gonna just carry this all on the way until we finally get to the end of it. But we've also decided as a sort of palate cleanser to sort of balance out the stark New Jersey like mob life. We've gone back to a old familiar series, which is Stranger Things, in the lead up to the final season that's coming out later this year, which is being released in a really weird reburst feature-length film sort of thing. I don't know. I feel like it's gone way too long. Like this series started in 2016, y'all. It's like
it's also known as like Netflix wanting you to subscribe for 3 months as opposed to just one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like I rewatching this first season. There's so many things I had forgotten about it because it's been so long since I watched it. So I watched the first initial season, and like I like that first season.
Well, I did too.
I think that it's like obviously it's
Justice for Barb.
Justice for Barb. Justice for Barb.
Renewing the call for justice for Barb.
What bullshit. Oh my god. They did her so dirty. They did that character so dirty. She did not deserve that.
No.
No, it's like it's aping aliens, it's aping altered states, it's aping Akira. like E.T., It, Stand By Me,
Yeah.
Under the Skin too, which is very weird. Like that doesn't that's nowhere even close to like the timeline of where this is, but it's still stark and very very interesting. I'm glad they did go for that. But yeah, it's good. I like that. I like that first season. I it's not that I don't like the show. I just think the show has gone on for too damn long, and these kids don't look like kids anymore. And they got to use AI in order to make the kids look like kids, so they can do the things that they did. They did not plan this out as thoroughly as James Cameron thought out Avatar, because he's talking about, oh yeah, we filmed these scenes, because this is going to show in a flashback in like in Avatar 4, and then Avatar 5 we're going to go back to Avatar 3, and I'm just like, damn, he really had the Matrix mind like going on with like everything. They're just like they're just laying tracks in front of the next one, hoping that they finally get to the end. But yeah, that's what I've been watching lately on my own time.
Okay, Evan, what have you been watching lately?
Well, that's some good stuff. As the listeners know, often I'm watching a lot more TV than movies, but for some reason I've been watching a lot of movies lately. So I'm back on the movie train. But I saw two things recently that I wanted to plug. One is an indie movie that I saw this past week for a spoiler piece that I thought was really great. It's called To Kill a Wolf, and it's kind of modern day take on Little Red Riding Hood, but I think it's actually a lot more interesting than that. That's just kind of like the gateway to get you in there, but it's really well done. I think great performances, very textured characters, and yeah, the wolf in this case is metaphorical as opposed to literal, but it's really good. It's like I was saying on spoiler piece, like, you know, when we as critics we review movies and we get to see a lot of movies that other people don't, and so we get a chance to discover, you know, indie gems and movies that you wouldn't come across otherwise. And I definitely would have come across this one, so I'm kind of like a vocal supporter of it, and I want people to see To Kill a Wolf because I think it's actually really good. Small movie that's done really well, so definitely see that. And then
where was that one available to see, or is it a rental right now?
I think it's an on-demand movie that you'll be able to rent. I'm not sure if it's getting a theatrical release or not. But then the other movie I wanted to mention is that I finally got a chance to watch my 4K of the 2006 Tarsem Singh film, The Fall.
Hell yeah! So I love that movie.
Yeah, me too. And I was one of those people that, you know, didn't buy it back in the day, so I've been clamoring for its 4K release and got it for my birthday and was excited to finally sit down and rewatch it. And I have to say, just as good as I thought it was whenever it was the last time I saw it, which is probably like at least 15 years ago, if not longer. And yeah, it's just so good. It looks beautiful. It's probably one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And just the costumes, just the locations, the art direction, all of it is just chef's kiss. And lovely pace, love the story within a story thing, love the whole chemistry with him and the girl, and how they're kind of like telling the story, but then the interruptions. I was just all about it. So,
yeah, I think
listeners, check that out if you've never seen The Fall.
Yeah, if you don't get the 4K from Umbrella, you can still catch that on Mubi these days. I think I was reading something because I also really enjoy the movie and imported the Umbrella release too. That Tarsem Singh said like maybe that there's a pathway one day just to like have a movie of the like hospital scenes because people enjoy those so much. He was like he didn't know like how wonderful that would turn out as opposed to like everything else too.
Yeah, even those scenes are just incredibly blocked, and they use the space so effectively, even though this is not really like the most exciting part of the story.
All right, yeah.
What about you, Max?
Yeah, so I guess I was seeing Fantastic Four or Superman or something, and I saw the trailer for the new Naked Gun, this one with Liam Neeson as the lead, and it was this trailer saying like if you don't see comedy in the movie theaters, we won't have like comedy in movie theaters anymore. And I was like, this actually sold me to see The Naked Gun. I was like, this is true, you know. Like, what was the last time I saw a comedy in the theater that was like, this is a comedy, as opposed to like laughing during like a superhero movie.
I like Friendship. I loved Friendship. I laughed my ass off at Friendship, but I agree in spirit. Yes.
Yeah. So then I went ahead and I watched the original Naked Gun to kind of prepare because it's been ages, and I was like, oh, I didn't know like O.J. Simpson's in here. This is kind of like sketchy.
I mean, no, that it's just a time capsule of a totally different era. I'm just like, oh yeah, this guy was a really big deal before the thing that we all know him for.
Right. And I was like, oh, but he gets his butt kicked the whole movie. So like that's the running gag that like he always gets like hurt. And I'm like, okay, I guess I can live with that. The movie's very funny. I could see like why like people love it, and it's so clever. It was funny that I was watching. I don't know why I put it on. Maybe I saw a post on Instagram talking about like Jacques Tati's Mr. Hulot's Holiday, and like I hadn't watched that in a little bit, and like so I turned that on too because I have the complete Jacques Tati collection.
Yeah, me too.
And I was like, oh, look at this! Like he's very much like this humor where like it's definitely placement humor. There's this like terrific scene where he's like in a boat and like the bucket is moving around the boat, and I'm like, how the heck did they do that? Yeah, I just love that, and it's like the Naked Gun movies kind of stand on the shoulders of art like that. And then I went ahead and saw the Naked Gun with Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson, and yeah, it's pretty funny. It runs a brisk 88 minutes, and it has a lot of callbacks to that original. It's directed by Akiva Schaffer, who's part of The Lonely Island, and he directed like the Pop Star movie. So yeah, it has some good pedigree to it, and I think people who like The Naked Gun and know that they're going into like a dumb comedy will get a kick out of this and have a fun time at the theater.
Sweet. Yeah, maybe I'll see that at some point, because I do remember liking the original Naked Gun movies.
Yeah. All right. Again, I want to thank both of you on this momentous occasion of episode 200. I'm sure we could have waxed statistics for an hour and a half, but instead we covered the great Hayao Miyazaki and talked about some great movies. Toussaint, you were an excellent guest. I hope you join us once again sometime soon. Evan, I know coming up soon we have our fall festival preview. I was already doing lots of work for that the other day. Getting all the movies together, showing at these festivals. So we'll be ready for that in 2 weeks' time, and we'll talk to everyone soon. All right, thanks everyone.